The grand hall of the alien palace was filled with light and laughter. High lords and generals from many stars had come to witness the treaty between Earth and the mighty Zalarian Empire. The humans had fought well in the long war, and the aliens had finally agreed to peace. But the Zalarian king was not pleased about signing this treaty. He saw humans as weak, soft-hearted, and far too emotional. As part of the ceremony, the king stood from his crystal throne, holding a strange gift in his arms. He walked toward the human side with a smile that was cold and sharp. Behind him followed a young alien girl, no older than 20 in human years. She had pale, shining skin, but her body moved unevenly. Her left leg dragged behind slightly, and her arms were covered in glowing scars. Her eyes looked down, silent and without emotion. "This," the king said, loud enough for the hall to hear, "is my daughter, Aleph, once meant to be a queen." The hall grew quiet. "She is broken, damaged in mind and body after a failed experiment," he continued. "But perhaps she will be useful to you humans," he added with a smirk. "You love fixing broken things, don't you?" The aliens around him laughed, their voices echoing through the great hall. Commander Riven of Earth stood still, his face calm. He looked at the girl, not with pity, but with curiosity. She did not look up, but there was something in the way she stood. Something that told him there was more beneath her silence. "I accept her," Riven said quietly, stepping forward. The alien king raised an eyebrow, confused. "You do?" "She is not broken," Riven replied. "She is simply waiting to heal." There were whispers from the alien nobles, laughter mixed with disbelief. But Riven did not care. He placed a gentle hand on Aleph's shoulder, and for a second, her eyes lifted. Just a little. And in that moment, he saw a flicker of light in her dull gaze. A spark. Maybe hope. Riven turned and led her away, walking slowly so she could follow without shame. Behind him, the court's laughter grew louder. But he didn't look back. On the spaceship heading back to Earth's moon base, Riven sat across from Aleph in silence. He didn't ask questions. He didn't push her to talk. He simply observed. She sat still, hands folded, her fingers moving in strange, small patterns. Riven noticed something odd. The patterns her fingers made were not random. They looked like symbols, ancient ones, perhaps part of a code. He pulled out a small holographic tablet and copied the shapes. He recognized one of them. It was a symbol from an old Terran encryption language, long forgotten. "You understand this?" he asked gently. She didn't reply. But her fingers repeated the shape again, more clearly. He smiled slightly. "You're not broken," he whispered, "you're trying to talk." He stood and walked to the pilot's deck, speaking quietly to his crew. "She's not to be treated like a gift or a trophy," he said. "She's a guest, and maybe more." The crew looked unsure, but they obeyed. Back in her chamber, Aleph sat quietly, staring at a music emitter in the corner. Soft earth melodies played, sounds she had never heard before. She touched the device lightly, and her fingers started moving with the beat. She hummed, not a full sound, just a breath. But it was there. A low, vibrating note that matched the song's frequency. Then changed. Shifted. Bent the sound into a new shape. The device flickered, reacting strangely. She quickly pulled her hand back, afraid. But Riven had seen it through the glass. He walked in slowly and sat beside her. "You altered the signal," he said. "You changed the music." She said nothing. But for the first time, she looked at him, not through him. At him. Riven leaned forward, voice calm and steady. "Aleph, whatever they did to you, whatever happened, it didn't destroy you. You're still here, still learning, still fighting." She blinked slowly, then reached out and touched the symbol on his uniform, the one representing Earth. Her hand trembled, but she pressed it gently. And then, she smiled. Barely. But it was real. The ship entered Earth's orbit. The broken princess had arrived. But no one could guess what she would become. And the galaxy would never laugh at her again. The Earth's moon base was cold and quiet, floating above the blue planet like a silent guardian. Inside one of its research domes, Commander Riven stood beside a glass wall, watching the girl they now called Princess Aleph. She sat alone in a white room, staring at a small glowing sphere placed before her. She hadn't spoken since their return, but her eyes were no longer empty. She would touch the sphere once each day, and every time, its color would change. Not randomly, but in a pattern. Red to violet, violet to silver, silver to black, then back to red. No one else had ever made it do that. Riven met with his science officer, Dr. Elira, a calm woman known for her work with neural harmonics. She's not responding to speech, Elira said, but her brainwaves show activity when exposed to certain sound frequencies. What kind? Riven asked. Terran music, deep tones, ancient earth instruments. Then give her more, Riven replied, let her feel the sound. They redesigned her room, adding musical emitters that played soft earth melodies, harps, choirs, deep cello notes. The sound filled the air with warmth. Aleph didn't react at first. But on the third day, she began to move her hands slowly, tracing the air as if drawing invisible lines. She pressed her fingers together, then released them in rhythm with the sound. Her breathing changed. She was listening, not just with her ears, but with her entire body. Riven sat with her during these sessions, saying nothing. Only watching. Sometimes he'd hum softly, and she would turn her head slightly toward him. She was not broken. She was learning how to speak in a different way. One evening, as the moon dipped into Earth's shadow, Aleph surprised everyone. She stood on her own and walked to the center of the room without limping. She placed her hands on the glowing sphere and began to hum. A soft vibration filled the chamber. The sphere lifted into the air and hovered. The lights flickered for a moment. Alarms triggered in the control room, but Riven stopped them. She's not attacking, he said, she's sinking. Indeed, the hum was stable, peaceful, and oddly beautiful. When the hum ended, the sphere landed gently, and Aleph sat down again. She looked up at the observation window, where Riven stood, and nodded. That night, Riven entered the room with a training tool, a small drone used by cadets to test reflexes. He placed it on the floor, and it floated, ready to fire harmless light pulses. I want to try something, he said. He activated the drone, and it zipped through the air, aiming at Aleph. She didn't move. The drone fired. But before the beam could reach her, her hum began again. The drone stopped mid-air, flickered, and spun out of control, crashing into the floor. Riven blinked in shock. You just jammed it, he whispered. He walked over and checked the device. No damage, he said, just scrambled. He looked at her. You're not only learning, he said, you're adapting. Words spread fast across the base. Whispers of the silent alien girl who could control machines with her voice. Many still doubted her. They thought it was a trick. But Riven had seen it. He knew it wasn't a weapon. It was instinct. They started testing her in controlled simulations. No pressure, just observation. She predicted enemy drone routes before the program even started. She walked through puzzle grids without touching any walls. And she drew complex star patterns in the air using only her hum. One particular simulation stunned the entire command staff. A war strategy program meant for senior officers was accidentally loaded in her chamber. No one expected her to understand it. But she did. In 5 minutes, she rearranged the Terran fleet pattern into a perfect defensive circle. Something Earth's admirals had never designed. Riven stared at the data. She just restructured an entire battle plan without touching a console, he said. That night, Riven visited her again. He brought a small crystal recorder, placed it in front of her. Do you remember your voice? He asked. She looked at him. Then slowly, very slowly, she opened her mouth and released a soft melody. No words, just sound. But within that sound, a message was hidden. Riven played the recording back, enhanced it through a resonance scanner. The message translated into symbols. The symbols formed a name. Her name. Aleph. She had said it. Without saying it. And so, Earth's moon base added a new title to her profile, not Broken Daughter, but Silent Strategist. She was no longer the king's discarded experiment. She was something new. Something Earth had never seen before. And her voice, once hidden, had just begun to echo across the stars. The stars outside the moon base moved in silence. But inside, something far louder was awakening. Princess Aleph no longer dragged her leg. She moved with calm purpose. She did not speak with words, but with tones, hums, pulses of sound. Each note she released was not just music. It was a signal. Commander Riven stood in the observation lab, reviewing the data from her last session. She predicted the drone strike simulation 4 seconds early. "Dia," Elira said, stunned. "That's faster than any human strategist we have." Riven leaned forward, watching Aleph through the screen. She was sitting quietly, eyes closed, fingers tracing patterns on her legs. "I think she's communicating in layers," he said. "Her hums carry frequencies, and within those frequencies are signals, some too fast for normal hearing." Elira looked up. "You think she's sending coded messages?" "I think," Riven said slowly, "she's running algorithms in her mind." That night, Riven brought a new tool to her chamber, a quantum harmonic recorder. A device used by Terran codebreakers to track vibrations in deep space transmissions. He placed it near her and said, "Do whatever feels natural." Then he stepped back. Aleph looked at the machine with quiet interest. She touched it softly. Then she closed her eyes and began to hum. The device lit up. Not once, not twice, but in a full circular pattern. It had never done that before. Data streamed onto the tablet Riven held. Patterns, loops, signals, too complex for simple noise. Riven activated the decryption tool. The data formed lines of code. And then, words. Echo, pulse, shield, pattern, error correction complete. The message repeated in perfect rhythm. Her hum wasn't just a sound. It was code. Self-generating, learning, evolving. "She's not just reacting," Riven whispered, "she's building." The next day, a test was prepared. This time, they gave her a raw Terran drone, damaged, memory wiped, no AI inside. "Let's see if she can do more than disrupt," said Elira. Riven nodded. They placed the drone on the floor of her room. Aleph walked to it, her steps slow but strong. She placed both hands on its side and hummed. At first, nothing happened. Then, the drone twitched. Its sensors blinked. Its body lifted slowly into the air. The team gasped. "She's activating it," someone said. "No," Riven said quietly, "she's repairing it." After 60 seconds, the drone hovered steadily. It turned toward her and blinked once. Green. Then it flew in a perfect circle before gently landing beside her. She had given it a command. And it obeyed. She rebuilt its operating code from sound, Elira said in disbelief. No spoken command, no console, just resonance. Riven walked into the chamber, his heart pounding. "Aleph," he said gently, "do you remember how this began?" She looked at him, her eyes glowing softly. She reached toward the tablet in his hand and tapped it twice. The screen changed. A new star map appeared, one filled with coordinates not found in any known database. Riven stared at the map, then looked back at her. "Where is this from?" he asked. She hummed 3 short notes, then a long one. The tablet translated. "My memory." Elira rushed in, her hands shaking. "She's recalling star systems the Zalarian Empire tried to erase from record." "They did something to her," Riven muttered, "something to bury her knowledge." Aleph walked to the wall and touched a spot behind the data panel. With her hum, a secret layer of circuitry appeared, a hidden interface no one had seen before. She hummed again, and the interface reacted. "This isn't moon-based tech," Elira whispered. "No," Riven said, "it's hers." Suddenly, the lights dimmed. The base's mainframe flickered, then adapted. The AI system responded to Aleph's frequency as if it was a new administrator. "Authorization accepted," the system said in a flat tone. "Welcome back, Aleph." Everyone froze. She was part of something far greater. Not just a princess. Not just a discarded daughter. She was a carrier, a living key to hidden knowledge and forbidden systems. Riven looked at her, awe in his eyes. "You weren't broken," he whispered. "You were locked." And now, the code was awake. And the galaxy was about to learn what she truly was. The chamber grew quiet after the eye's voice echoed through the moon base. "Welcome back, Aleph," it had said. And in that moment, everything changed. Commander Riven stood frozen. His heart was racing. How did their base's system know her name? She had never spoken it aloud. She had never logged in. No access cards. No voice codes. Only her hums. "Dr." Elira's hands trembled as she scanned the interface Aleph had just activated. This wasn't normal technology. It was living tech. It responded to resonance, not code. And it wasn't Terran or fully Zalarian either. It was something older. Aleph stood calmly between them, her eyes glowing faintly with soft silver light. She raised her hand and touched the floating panel again. The room darkened. And then, it began. A holographic memory unfolded around them. A golden temple in space, built into the shell of a dying star. Inside it, scientists in royal robes stood over a platform. On it, a young girl. Her eyes full of light, her voice humming a powerful tone. The same tone she used now. The hologram zoomed in, showing a younger Aleph, maybe 10 years old. Floating in a resonance field. She was singing pure data. The scientists watched in awe, until the king appeared. His face was younger, but still cold. "What is she seeing?" the younger Elira asked from the recording. "She's accessing the star echo layer," the alien scientist replied. "A network of resonance signals left by ancient civilizations." "But she's just a child," the king said sharply. "If she sees too much, they will come for her. We have to block it." The memory shifted. Machines surrounded Aleph, breaking the signal. She screamed. Her voice twisted into static as energy surged through her body. And then, silence. Her body fell. Her eyes dimmed. She was left lying cold and motionless. "Seal this record," the king ordered. "She is broken." The hologram faded. And the room returned to silence. Riven stared at Aleph in disbelief. "They did this to you," he whispered. "They shut you down, because you were too powerful." Aleph turned to the wall and began humming softly. Images returned, maps, blueprints, old languages written in pulses of light. She was recovering the lost data. But not just remembering. Rebuilding. "She wasn't meant to be a weapon," Elira said quietly. "She was meant to be a bridge. A translator of ancient knowledge." And her father feared that. Suddenly, alarms blared across the base. "Unauthorized signal detected," the system warned. "Source, Zalarian Royal Fleet." Riven rushed to the control room. A communication burst appeared, text only. It read, "Return the failed one, or face termination." "They know she's awakened," Elira said. "They're afraid she'll expose everything." Riven didn't hesitate. "She's not going anywhere," he said. "She's under Earth's protection now." Back in the resonance chamber, Aleph sat cross-legged, eyes closed. She was humming again. But this time, her song carried power. Screens across the base lit up. Locked files opened, encrypted gates released. Even broken ships in the hangar hummed faintly in reply. She wasn't just recalling memory. She was reactivating forgotten systems hidden deep within Earth's tech. Systems that were dormant since the beginning of galactic travel. Riven stepped into the room and knelt beside her. "You're not just remembering, are you?" he asked. "You're connecting." She opened her eyes and whispered, "Yes." Her voice, soft but real, carried both strength and sadness. "I saw the echoes," she said slowly. "They left messages, warnings, blueprints. Starwalkers, long before humans or Zalarians. They wanted someone to find it," she added. "And I was chosen." Riven felt a chill. He finally understood. She was never broken. She had been muted by those who feared the truth. But now, her voice had returned. And with it, the knowledge of ancient stars. "Then we'll help you," he said firmly. "We'll help you finish what they started." From the shadows, the silent girl who had once been mocked and discarded now stood at the edge of a secret war. Her memories were not just hers. They were the key to something far bigger. And the galaxy was about to hear her voice. Loud and clear. The galaxy had gone silent. But not because of peace. Because they were listening. Listening to a voice that had once been buried in fear. Aleph no longer walked the moon base as a guest. She walked as a leader. Her presence was quiet, her steps gentle. But the moment she entered the command room, even seasoned officers stood up straighter. She didn't bark orders. She didn't need to. Her hum, a low, focused frequency, was all she used. And the systems listened. The maps shifted. Enemy simulations froze, recalculated, and collapsed under her sound patterns. Commander Riven watched from the side. She doesn't just predict attacks, he said to Dr. Elira. She teaches machines how to avoid them before they happen. They started running tactical drills with Earth's young cadets. But this time, Aleph led them. Without a word. Only with her tone, gestures, and energy pulses. At first, the cadets were unsure. She doesn't speak, one muttered. She doesn't need to, another replied. And by the end of the week, those same cadets could move like a single mind. Their reactions were faster, cleaner. Because she taught them how to listen without using their ears. The nickname began as a whisper. Then it stuck, the silent strategist. A name feared across interstellar simulations. Admirals from other worlds watched her work and fell into silence themselves. How is this even possible? One whispered. She's mapping battlefields using frequency math, Elira explained. She's turning war into a form of music. Earth Command wanted to hide her, protect her from the attention. But Riven refused. She was hidden once before, he said, not again. Word spread through neutral systems. A girl once discarded now trained Terran fleets with songs. Alien empires watched nervously. Including the one that had mocked her. Her father's empire. One morning, Aleph walked into the control bay. She had drawn a new pattern on the glass wall, for looping spirals, intersecting. No one understood what it meant. Until 2 days later, when a deep space probe confirmed it. A pirate fleet was heading toward Earth's outer colonies. But Aleph had drawn their entire path before any radar detected them. She wasn't just reading data. She was feeling space. Reading gravitational hums like a musician reads sheet music. They sent a fleet under her command, not a war fleet, but a defensive chord. 5 small ships arranged in a curved formation. Aleph hummed a tone through the resonance deck. The formation shifted and expanded like a wave. When the pirate ships entered the zone, their systems were jammed without a single shot fired. The leader surrendered, terrified. She silenced our AI, he said, like it was never alive. The Galactic Council requested her attendance. Not as a prisoner, but as a guest. They wanted to understand her mind. But she only gave them this, a note played on a floating orb. A note that showed their political map collapsing under its own errors. Correct it, Riven told them, or be corrected. And still, the Zalarian king said nothing. He watched from afar. Watched the daughter he once called broken now guiding planets with nothing but her breath. He sent a message. Return her, and your alliance survives. Riven looked at Aleph. She shook her head slowly. She would not go back. Instead, she stepped onto Earth's central broadcast deck. Millions of humans watched from all across the stars. She closed her eyes and released a sound no one had heard before. Not a song. Not a command. But a call. A frequency that touched hearts, activated memories, even reawakened disabled satellites. The old Terran anthem reshaped in her voice, calm, powerful, human. She had become something else now. Not a soldier. Not just a princess. She was a harmonic leader. The first of her kind. When the broadcast ended, there was silence again. Not out of fear, but out of respect. Aleph stepped down from the platform and stood beside Riven. Her hum lowered to a soft rhythm, matching his heartbeat. She had learned the one code no machine ever could, emotion. And with that, the silent strategist began to teach not just how to fight, but how to lead, how to listen, how to rise. The stars above Earth trembled with hidden tension. And somewhere in the dark edges of space, a father watched his daughter become something more than he had ever imagined. The Zalarian king sat in his throne room. His generals silent. His pride wounded. His fear growing. Alepha's rise was not a rumor anymore. It was a truth broadcast across the stars. His court no longer whispered about her as the broken one. Now they called her the resonant flame. A name not given, but earned. And that he could not allow. He ordered a fleet, silent, cloaked, elite. Not to invade, but to retrieve. She is mine, the king said, she belongs to the bloodline. But she is not loyal to it, one general warned. She must be reminded of her place, the king growled. She will kneel, or she will fall. Earth sensors didn't detect the incoming ships. But Aleph did. She felt the vibrations long before machines picked them up. In her dreams, she heard her father's voice. Cold, commanding. You were built by me. You will return to me. She awoke in silence. But her hum that morning was sharp. A tone like broken glass. And every AI system on the moon base paused. Alert. Listening. Commander Riven stepped into her chamber. What's wrong? He asked. She pointed to the star map. 4 red signals blinked into view. Assassins, she whispered. The fleet came in the night. Cloaked fighters bypassed the outer defenses. No weapons, only signal disruptors and neural clamps. They didn't come to kill. They came to erase. But Aleph was ready. She walked alone to the outer dome. She stood beneath the stars. No armor, no guards. Only her voice. As the first ship descended, she raised her hands and began to hum. Not loud, not angry, but deep and ancient. The ship shuddered mid-air. Its engines whined. Panels flickered. It fell, softly, like a leaf caught in wind. And it landed without power. Another ship came, this one faster. It launched a resonance disruptor aimed directly at her chest. But Aleph turned her body slightly and released a new tone. High and clear. Like a bell ringing in a glass world. The disruptor shattered before it reached her, falling in pieces around her feet. The soldiers inside the ship dropped their weapons. Their minds filled with peace. They knelt, not from orders, but from understanding. Riven and the Earth forces arrived too late. The attackers were already disarmed. Not by weapons, but by harmony. Then the final ship arrived. Black, gold-trimmed, and full of hate. The royal insignia burned on its hull. The king had come himself. He stepped out, no longer hiding behind generals or servants. He looked older now, not because of age, but because he had lost the future. He saw Aleph standing tall, her scars glowing like honor, her eyes steady, her voice quiet but unbroken. You were a mistake, he said. A failed project. She said nothing. You were meant to be a weapon, he snarled. But you chose to be human. Then he raised a device, small, silver, pulsing. A last fail-safe. A memory eraser. Tuned to her DNA. With one press, her mind would collapse. He activated it. But nothing happened. Aleph looked at him. And for the first time, she spoke clearly. Her voice was soft. But every word struck like thunder. I rewrote myself, she said. I am no longer yours to silence. She hummed a low note, pure and steady. The device in his hand cracked. Then melted. The king fell to his knees. Not because she attacked, but because he understood. His daughter had become a force he could never control. I tried to break you, he whispered. She stepped forward. You gave me weakness, she said. And Earth gave me strength. The king looked up, defeated. What will you do now? She turned away and answered, I will teach the stars how to sing. That night, the Zalarian fleet left in silence. Their king broken, but his daughter finally whole. And across the galaxy, people spoke of the night the girl who once couldn't walk stood tall before an empire and sang it into surrender. The stars no longer whispered about the broken daughter. They sang about her, about the voice that once trembled in silence, but now echoed across galaxies. Aleph did not return to the palace of her birth. She stayed with Earth, not as a guest, not as a warrior, but as something new, something never seen before. The Terran Council built her a chamber in orbit. Half technology, half resonance crystal. It floated beyond the moon, a beacon of harmony and evolution. They called it the Echo Core. And Aleph sat at its center. Eyes closed, heart open, voice flowing like a river of stars. She had become the bridge between ancient knowledge and future understanding. Every tone she released carried blueprints, languages, lost frequencies, and solutions Earth scientists couldn't even imagine. She helped regrow dead planets with sound, cured AI corruption with a whisper, stopped wars before they started by simply playing both sides the sound of their shared origin. Cadets from across human space came to her, not to learn how to fight, but to learn how to listen. She taught without speaking. She guided with rhythm. And from her teachings, a new fleet rose, the Harmonic Guard. Ships that didn't need to shout with weapons, but sang their presence into every system. Where they arrived, fear faded, because people knew they were protected not by force, but by understanding. Commander Riven now served as her ambassador. Though he had once been her teacher, now he walked behind her, proud and silent. She was never mine to guide, he often said. She was waiting for the right world to hear her. Even the Galactic Council changed. Nations that once mocked her now built resonance platforms, trying to understand what she was. But none could match her frequency, because she was born of two worlds, and healed by the one that listened. One day, a signal reached the Echo Core. A child's voice. On a broken colony in deep space. The girl hummed a melody Aleph had released years ago. Though no one had taught it to her, Aleph opened her eyes and smiled. She answered with a single note. The child smiled back on her cracked screen, and her broken communication pod repaired itself in seconds. It wasn't technology. It was resonance, will. And for the first time, Earth realized what Aleph truly was. She wasn't just a strategist, or a survivor, or a gifted alien girl. She was evolution. She was the moment when machine and soul stopped fighting and started singing together. The alien king never returned. He vanished into silence. But his name lived on, not as a ruler, but as the one who gave away the universe's greatest gift. Without knowing it, an Earth changed, not through war, but through harmony, through one girl who had been given in mockery, but accepted with love, and transformed by it. In the final recording broadcast from the Echo Core, Aleph stood before a crystal MIC, her hands folded. Behind her floated stars, nebulae, and ancient ruins now pulsing with new life. She looked into the camera and said just 3 words. Broken is a lie. Then she sang, and the galaxy listened.